Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures, episode 347, talking a little bit about PPE in the woods. Now, I do have some thoughts on this, but Ben, this was your topic, so why don't you lead us into this and tell us where we're going?
Yeah, well, we were talking about different subjects, and honestly, this is one I see at work and different workplaces in general, and people are like, talking about PPE, and even when I was in the search and rescue and stuff, this was often a topic of what gear should you wear when you're in the woods, and I've noticed that people go a lot of ways with this, I can't say anyone's wrong because then I'll offend somebody. But what I can say is I have some very strong opinions on a lot of this stuff, and I would really like to share some of these things and at least get people thinking constructively about what PPE they carry and what they should be carrying and why they should be carrying it and how they evaluate what's needed and why they would need it. And for me, it all bases around a risk analysis, like what possibly could happen, what gear could I wear to protect that from happening or carry to protect that from happening, and then what are the consequences of that gear. And one of the things I think I'd even like when I quickly listed this to you is I said you could carry all kinds of gear and basically be under a crushing weight of the things you need to wear and be almost unable to move in the wilderness if you chose to go with all of it. So how do you choose what to take and what you don't? So I'll let you speak for a bit and then we'll come back to it.
So my thoughts on this, and this may be the first responder coming out on me. I immediately think back to an individual. His name's Gordon Graham. Graham's actually, he does this talk, and I encourage everybody jump on YouTube, look this guy up. This is an amazing little talk he does, and it's kind of funny. High risk, low frequency. And it's part of risk analysis or hazard assessment, right? Like it's that thing, and I'm going to sum it up really, really quickly. It's not the full gist of this, but enough for us. What his talk basically says is everything's broken into like 4 categories. There's like high risk, high frequency, high risk, low frequency, low risk, high frequency, low risk, low frequency. And depending on where you sit in that dictates the knowledge you need to do that or a watch out zone, more specifically. And what he says, things that are high risk, big consequences, but they don't happen often. That's the stuff we miss a lot because we don't have a knowledge or a database in our heads to pull information from. Going out in the woods is much the same. We hypothesize about a lot of the stuff that can happen, but the reality is a lot of it is very low frequency. So in bushcrafting, we tend to go the other way. We always, well, at least you and I tend to look the other way on this, and we always look for worst case scenario. What could happen? How do we prevent it? And once again, a lot of other people will do that, and they kind of go over the top. Like, what could happen? How do I prevent it? And they start looking at these things that are so low frequency that it starts getting a little crazy with some of the stuff they're going to take. You know what I mean? Oh, well, I could fall in the river. Well, okay, but if it's the middle of summer, drying out's really not that bad. Middle of winter, okay, but you probably don't need, like 5 extra shirts and 3 extra pants and 20 extra pair of socks for all the things. Like I want to change my socks every hour because potentially the sweat could create chafing and maybe get a little athlete's foot or trench foot. Yeah, maybe, but like what's the percentages of that happening? 0.001? Like there's a lot of other stuff that's going to make that frequency come up. And I think that's what I want to talk about here a little bit for when you get into some of that extreme stuff, as well as like, yeah, there's bad consequences, but the lack of frequency and the lack of severity in a lot of our instances can dictate us to better taking stuff in the woods. Because the reality is, and you're going to, I have a lot of thoughts going on. I'm trying to get them to come out in a chronological order that makes sense. But we go in the woods, we do solo adventuring. Yes, we're remotely located and stuff like that. But the reality is if we did our planning properly, somebody knows where we're at. We have communications back and we're never that far from our vehicle. You know what I mean? So do we really need to take so much stuff to the campsite?
Yeah. And this is where I want to sit down and make sure people start to think about this stuff. And I think you really hit a thing in here. Like, what is the likelihood of it happening, and what is the consequence if it does happen? And one I think might really bring this home for some people is a bear attack, right? So we hear a lot of people, we get this question a lot, believe it or not. This is probably one of my most common questions. What do you do in case a bear attacks you? And so there's a few things I do occasionally do. And if I think there's a likelihood of a bear attack, I do carry bear spray. Now, but the reality is, I have spent 40 something years in the woods, and I have been attacked by bears exactly 0 times. Like, it's a very defined number of times a bear has threatened me. And I've seen bears, and I know I've been close to bears way more than I've ever seen them. So honestly, the likelihood of a bear attacking me is pretty low. And even when I think about the gear I take, so immediately is, well, you should carry a gun because you can shoot a bear. And then you got to think about it. Okay, a gun weighs 5-6 pounds. I got to carry the ammo. And then what is the likelihood that if I'm carrying a gun that's loaded, that I shoot myself or someone else? And actually, that risk is significantly higher than the risk of being attacked by a bear. And to the point where even if you look at home invasions, and this is not our subject, more people get shot by their own gun than that of a criminal's. Statistically, this is just a worldwide.
Oh, no. And I completely agree. My only caveat to this would be depending on where you're at. Once again, the risk analysis. Here in Nova Scotia, not many black bear attacks, like in the history of the province. Now, Nunavut with polar bear attacks, little higher frequency, large land predator that is known to attack humans.
Yes.
Okay, I get that. But for most of us down here on, you know what, even Ontario, stuff like that, where you get grizzlies, Kodiaks, okay, maybe a little bit more, but especially where I'm from, Nova Scotia, I can't ever picture me carrying a gun in the woods for, quote unquote, safety.
Yeah.
Like you said, 9 times out of 10, the animals don't come around. I was hoping that Steve would be on here. Maybe he'll pop in later. Funny enough, he was doing a video, and I don't know if you've seen this one, Ben. He was just doing one of his drifts, and he's talking to the camera, and you see the bear walk through the background. He never knew the bear was there until after he did the video.
Oh, wow. Cool. So, but it kind of hits my point. Like, generally, most places I've been, and when I had this conversation this week, we're with another guy from the local area, and neither of us have ever seen a bear in a negative view while we're outside, and we know there are bears around. We've seen the bears. Now, I agree. If I happen to be in, say, Churchill, and there's known polar bears, and people have been chased and attacked there, I think there may even be a law there that if you're outside of town limits, you're supposed to
carry a rifle. Yeah,
definitely follow the law and the rules, and listen to the locals and find out. But if you're in an area that bear attacks are almost unheard of, and you think that the solution, just because it is a distinct long-range potential to carry a rifle, then your potential risk, your solution to the problem might be more dangerous than the problem. And I'm not discouraging people from owning guns, and I'm definitely not discouraging you from using them in the right manner. And I will never say don't take a gun. I mean, maybe you're in different target practice, or maybe you're actually hunting. And in those legit cases, I think it's good. And I am all for safety when I do carry a gun. But the point is, if you're carrying a gun simply because you're afraid of a bear attack in the southern part of Canada, it may not be the best method. The reality is, if you were to take a set of bells and have them jingling on your side, you'd probably be even better off. And a bit of string and a bell around your campsite, you can create a little tripwires that will alert the bear and you if they come too close. That has the risk to you as a human being almost zilch. Nobody's been injured by bells in the history of man, as far as I know, except like freak accidents. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say that this Kesting. I was trying to remember his first name. Stephen Kesting there. We had him on here, talked about his book. He traveled a long way through a lot of places that do have grizzly bears and polar bears with a rifle. But he even said that was his last resort. You know what I mean? And the one time he kind of needed it, he didn't have it with him, which was the hilarious part in all this. But he had better luck setting up a campsite perimeter with just
Yeah.
sound that generally keeps predators away. Most animals, noise is going to scare them off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not a whole lot of animals are going to come to an unknown noise. Some do. I get that. Coyotes are a big one. They can get curious. But it's not the ones that are deep in the woods, though I suppose the ones I'm going to talk about could go deep in the woods. It's generally the ones around town that have become familiarized with humans. They interact with us on some level. I have more risk of getting mauled by a bear in my backyard than I ever would in the middle of the woods. My opinion.
That's possibly true. And I mean, that's the other thing too. Like, look at the other things. I carry bear spray, but I am aware that bear spray is not A, 100% proof. And B, in a windy situation, I have to be very cognizant of which way I'm spraying it, because otherwise I can just get myself. People have tripped and shot each other with guns. There's bear bangers even. I've heard stories where somebody fired a bear banger towards the bear.
Went behind them and scared them towards them?
Yeah.
Ah.
They get charged. So all these things have a risk. If used improperly, they can injure you directly or indirectly, and you have to be aware of this. So when you're thinking risk analysis, think, what is the likelihood of happening? And then what is the likelihood that the solution I'm using may put me in a bigger risk? If you think about it, like, and I'll try to repeat what I think I was saying to you. If you wanted to take in every possible negative thing that could happen, you could start wearing a hard hat because something could fall from the trees, which is way more likely than a bear attack. You could start wearing safety glasses. You could wear air protection because there could be a loud noise while you're out there. There could be a fire, so you could wear some fireproof clothing in case you ever had to run through flame, things like that. You could get cut, so cut-proof gloves. You might fall and hurt yourself, so we could wear elbow pads and knee pads and shoulder pads and butt pads and all this other stuff. We could wear a bit of shoes, so we could wear extremely big, heavy boots with steel toes to protect ourselves from that. And we could be completely bubble wrapped.
And you know the funny part about all this, Ben? Everything you mentioned, and as ridiculous as people are rolling their eyes right now, all have higher likelihoods than getting attacked by a wild animal in the woods. Like, by significant margins.
Right? And this is all true. And the fact is, if I decided to wear all this gear, A, I would barely be able to walk through the woods. And B, I am now at a likelihood of being heat exhaustion and possibly injuring myself from the weight of what I'm carrying. So you have to sit down and think, like, what is the likelihood of this happening? And then what's the consequence? And is it worth it? And if you have a true fear of wild animals, or if you've seen it and you really feel that you need to carry something to protect yourself from wild animals, by all means, do it. But think about the thing is that there's so many other things that could go wrong. And sometimes what we can do is carry preventative measures, 100%. And the other time we have to carry after effects. So first aid kits, because if I fall, I could hurt my knees, I could break a leg. And these
remember when it went back and said all that stuff was highly more likely to happen? The one thing that solves most of it, first aid kit.
Yeah. But so in search and rescue, this was one of the things that came up, that we all had to wear safety glasses, because in a few searches we had a whole bunch of people got poked by branches. That is way more likely. Yet I see very few people in the woods wearing safety glasses.
Now, to play what I do for that, and I'm trying to pick a pair from above my desk here that's not going to drop everything on top of me. I'm a person that loves sunglasses. I wear sunglasses a lot. Bright lights bother me. So, you know what you can do? Sunglasses, safety glasses. And literally, I buy them by the case and just throw them up there because I destroy them all the time, lose them in the woods, run them over, whatever. They're like $4. But they are impact rated. Good shading on them. I always wear sunglasses anyway, and they do work for eye protection. So I'm actually on board with the eye protection one. Only because I wear sunglasses almost everywhere I go.
And honestly, if you have bright sunlight, season regardless, in winter you're just as likely to get, snow blindness and stuff like that.
I was going to say, you're more likely to damage your eyes in the winter because of all the reflective light.
And if you're canoeing and kayaking off the water, the reflection is so much worse. So the things you have a high likelihood and the risks are really bad is eye damage, is sunburns. I know of a ton of people who got sunburned in the woods, and it is absolutely miserable, right? Chafing.
Can I have a really quick story on sunburns?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mel and I, this is back when we were younger. I can't remember how old we are, but I'm going to say like early 20s. We were out camping. We were up top of Weaver's Mountain. We were doing some deep woods camping. Anyway, we're out on the boat. That Seahawk 4 or 6 or whatever the hell it was ahead at the time. Anyway, we're out in the boat. We're doing some fishing. All was good. And all of a sudden, we're like, there's a fire call coming in. You know what I mean? Because we were still close enough that we could get reception. And I'm like, screw it. Let's go to the fire call. Turned out to be a propane tanker that had went in the woods. And anybody that's in the area can probably remember it. Anyway, beknownst to us, both of us had got severe sunburns. And now we're in fire gear, trapping all that heat inside us, crawling around on our legs, scuffing it all up. Like, it is surprising how easy you can get sunburnt in the woods and not even know it until it's too late. The other thing I wanted to do here was say hi to everybody that's joining us, because there's some comments there. We're going to say hi to Danny, Fish, Eric, Fish85, Red Sand Adventures, which is Danny, the Drifting Spore. Steve did join us, and I wanted to get back to Steve, because Steve, I was telling the story about how you shot a video. A black bear walked behind you, and you never even realized it was there until you were processing the video for uploading. So, and we were just kind of talking about that stuff, and as well as we have Eric join us there, if I didn't say his name as well. So thanks everybody for joining us in there. Some jokes running through the comments, of course, too, saying, well, what about Bigfoot, Sam Squanch, stuff like that. But in the jest, like, they get it. Like,
so when I think, like, when I go, I really do think of the things that are likely to happen, and sunburn and eye protection are real things. I generally always have a good pair of sunglasses, and a few times I've forgotten, and I've really regretted it. Sunstroke is another really big one, and I tend to have a variety of hats that I like to wear when I'm in the woods or on my boat, and that's for that reason. It helps protect me from the sun. It keeps the wind and rain also a little bit better. Like, if it rains, it keeps it out of my eyes and stuff. It allows me to travel a little bit better, and so I really like that. Twisted ankles, I consider not only a high risk, but a huge consequence. Like, if I were to twist my ankle in the woods, the likelihood of me getting out reasonably, very low.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason I tend to wear high boots when I'm in the woods. I wear boots that they provide ample ankle protection, because I'm walking over rough terrain. I'm walking through stuff, and there's a very possible that I can have a rock or sticks come up and hit my ankle and damage my ankle, or me twist it.
Or just like a lot of uneven walking in the woods, your foot goes down in between two roots. You roll it wrong, it twists wrong. It's a lot higher and more likely to happen than a lot of the other stuff we've talked about.
So if I'm going to spend time and money and resources on things to protect me, it's things that are most likely to take me out. And those are some of the ones. The other one is bad water. Taking a filtration system has always been a PPE type. I know it's not something we wear as we think about it, but it's personal protection in the fact that before I drink anything, I filter contaminants so I don't end up with Giardia.
And the worst part about, sorry, go ahead, Ben, didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. I said, well, because it sucks to get, beaver fever in the middle of nowhere.
And I was going to say, the worst part about all of that is you never get it on the first day. So you have time to work yourself deeper into the woods until you find out that you got it.
48 hours in.
Yeah.
It's 2 days.
20 kilometers in, you're like, oh, shouldn't have drunk the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 2 healthy days walking out is now 4 or 5. And you're miserable. Yeah. No.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of things that are actually realistic to be worried about in the woods. So trips, falls, bumps, bruises, scrapes, burns, sunburns, eye damage. All of these can be mediated pretty easy. Like you said, a good pair of safety glasses, sunglasses covers that. Good pair of high cut boots. That's going to give you some ankle support. Longer clothing is nice, because that's going to protect a lot of your scrapes and stuff going through the trees and stuff like that. And I'm not talking like a heavy on sweater. I don't like long sleeve stuff personally, but I will wear a long sleeve t-shirt if I'm going to be doing some deep woods bushwhacking, because it's just going to protect your arms. Not only against the cuts and scrapes, but against insects, sap. You've gone through a softwood stand. I know you have. And you come out the other side and you stick to everything.
I don't know if you know this, but sticky fingers is something that really irks me. Like if there's an OCD thing I have, I can't have sticky fingers. Like I need to deal with that. That would drive me nuts. Like way worse than it should. Um, yeah. So
Okay, so we have Trevor85 joining us here. Clenching the cheeks and duck waddling through the woods makes it a bit difficult. And yeah, and frankly, I don't care who you are. We've all done it. We've all made dumb mistakes. Steve also talking here, the Drifting Spore, and this is about his bear thing. He says, it was funny. I edited that video, cobbled it together, proof watched it, uploaded it, never saw the bears in the background. It was somebody online pointed them out to him.
wow.
And they're pretty prominent. So, Steve, buddy, I think maybe you gotta watch your videos a little better. But they were like really prominent. He's and maybe he can jump in and tell me here, because I remember you're like sitting on a log or something, you're talking to the camera, and in the background just see the old black bear like walk out straight across and just kind of does its thing.
Well, and that's the thing with animals in general. Like they're not necessarily paying too much attention to us. If anything, they're trying to avoid us. So when I look at the risks, those are the lower ones. The other one, and I really think about this one when I think of shows like Alone, and I know that's one of my favorite shows. And even though I haven't been following it as much lately, the number of people that went home for cuts was way higher than it should be. And it isn't hard to get. And where I have like the titanium stove, it came with anti-cut gloves. You can buy relatively cheap pair, I think $5-10 on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
They got fibers in them that are more impervious to cutting, and you put them on. They're just like the what you call like the little stretchy gloves.
Yeah, like the little white cotton ones, but they're made out of Kevlar threading or something.
But that alone is an easy PPE. If you're doing wood carving, if you're doing a lot of stuff with a knife, or you're handling sharp objects like titanium chimneys and stuff like that, a pair of anti-cut gloves can really save you a lot of trouble. Same thing, like if you handle things like arrow tips. I've gotten a bad cut out of an arrow tip, and I still don't know how it ever touched my flesh. But it was the only sharp thing I was touching. And when I got upstairs from handling it, my arm was cut. And I was like, how did that happen? Because it's like a razor blade.
Yep.
So if you're dealing with sharp things, having something to protect you from that sharp object is really important. And this, I guess, comes back to if you're into health and safety, if you've ever had to deal with this at work, PPE is a last ditch thing. Generally, we try to come up with engineered solutions before you have to go to a PPE. So, for example, if you're working at heights, the fall rest gear, that's your last ditch. Before that, you would do like a fence or a railing that prevents you from falling over. You come up with an engineered thing that prevents you from falling. If you're operating an axe, when you set up to swing your axe, set it up so that if you miss, it can't hit you. We talked about before splitting wood from your knees, or having a large object that the axe will hit before it can continue the swing and come at you. So oftentimes I split wood on a stump for that reason. If I even miss the thing I'm aiming at, I probably got another foot all the way around that I can hit that's going to absorb that axe long before it becomes a risk to me. When you're cutting limbs off a tree, you stand on one side of the tree and you cut to the other. And that sounds awkward until you do it. But then you realize if anything ever slips, you aren't in the path of the cutting. It's on the other side of the trunk, right? Mm-hmm. Especially with a chainsaw, the same thing. If it comes down, you set it so that the swing arc is not where your body is.
Funny story with I have cut myself with a chainsaw for doing dumb stuff, and I can attest that using your noodle is almost as good as your gear, in all honesty. Yeah. I did something dumb, got bit. That's all there is to it. No one to blame but me.
There's a 4-inch scar on one of my legs from a chainsaw.
Yep.
That I wasn't wearing the proper gear, and I was walking through a wood pile, and when I picked up my leg, I bumped the bottom of the chainsaw to kind of get it out of my way, and chain was still running, and it went through a pair of overalls, a pair of jeans, and a couple of millimeters of flesh.
Yep.
Before it came.
I was clearing a road down in down home where I'm from. I got into the water and I was coming back. And as I was coming back, there was one little bush. And I'd taken my chaps off at this time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't need to put those on. It's only one tree. Famous last words, right?
Yeah.
So cut the bush. That wasn't the problem. When I cut the bush, I took the chainsaw, and I have a bad habit of when I'm bent over, I rest the chainsaw on my leg. Same thing. Didn't put the brake on. Didn't see where I put it. The blade was still spinning right down on the top of my leg. Once again, right through my jeans. And it went pretty good into my leg. Like it was interesting to see.
Yeah. Chainsaw does not leave a nice cut. It's quite wide.
Well, they're jagged. They tear, right? So, but
yeah, this is the thing. Like when you are in the woods, look, and I find this is the most important thing. Every time you do something, sit there and look at it and say, what could go wrong? And just that act alone oftentimes will help you prevent that from ever happening. Because now you're thinking about that as a possibility and you've thought about how you're going to prevent that. And it might be you're going to climb a tree. Well, what could go wrong? A branch could break and I could fall, or I could just fall anyways, or I could slip. And you kind of think about the gear you're wearing and whether it's the right gear. Do I have good shoes that are good for climbing? Maybe you'll think to put on a pair of gloves in case you do fall. You're not going to injure your hand and make yourself less able to catch yourself. That's a really big one. Like that would do more. Maybe you'll tuck in your shirts in case you fall when you go down to trunk. You're not going to rip your shirt up. And I've seen people like this. The entire belt from your belly button up, all tore up because the bark of the tree cut their stomachs open, right? And
now,
it's because
nope. Sorry, go ahead.
Because they didn't do anything to protect that flesh, right?
So, at the risk of what I'm about to say, I'm very carefully picking my words on this one. Think of it this way. Women have been doing this a lot longer than we have for one thing. And not just necessarily women. I guess some men too if they wear kilts. But think of skirts. Every time a lady or anybody that wears a skirt, and I'm just saying lady because I'm thinking my wife and daughter here, but anybody that wears any kind of skirt or open leg covering like that, like you got to think about what you do. You know what I mean? You're not just going to climb past the jungle gym. Like everybody's going to look up your skirt. You're not just going to go climb that tree. You're not going to sit bow-legged. Like it's all these little subconscious thoughts that you're going on, and we're chuckling about it, but it's the same thing in the woods. You got to think a little bit more attentively about what you're doing. That's going to save you much more than anything you wear. Because, of course, using the skirt, somebody could say, oh, just wear a pair of shorts. Well, yeah, you could, but maybe you don't want to be that hot. Once again, you're carrying extra gear. Maybe you don't own a pair of shorts. Whatever. Little knowledge goes a long way. What is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? Is that what the old saying is?
Yeah, a pound of cure, a pound of pain. And it comes down to a lot of things. Like, yes, you can use an axe to cut down a piece of, like a big branch or a small tree, but there isn't more of a risk with that. You could also use a saw, but you can cut yourself with a saw. But if it's dry and brittle, you can put it in a fork of a tree and just keep bending it. It'll keep breaking. And your risk there is much less. Now, I guess it could snap back and hurt you, or you could fall while pushing on it. But thinking about all these things and say, okay, which way would I rather hurt myself if something goes wrong? And if you can find the one that gives the least injury and the most productive outcome, that's the one you go with. If you're looking at a rock face and you're like, I could climb that, or I could go around and it'll take me 3 more minutes, probably go around. But if you're looking at it, I can climb it, but if I walk around, it's a 2-day trip, then you'd be like, hey, maybe it's worth the climb, right?
Well, another example, and I always try to link things back into real life here. You know where I live, down around the Pictou County area. From here to Halifax, the difference between doing the speed limit 110 and doing above the speed limit 125 and 130, do you know what the time difference is in that?
2-3 minutes?
About 5 minutes. Do you know what the fine is for that?
Yeah.
A lot more than 5 minutes is worth, I can tell you that much. You know what I mean? But once again, lots of people speed. We're all guilty of it. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, we're all perfect saints. No, we all do it. It's human nature. I understand that. But it's changing the way you think about it. You know what I mean? After I started thinking about it like that, a lot less likely to speed. Oh, yeah, I can save 5 minutes, but I'm going to be $500 poorer, and I might have to walk for 2 weeks.
Somebody was talking about it a little while ago because it was part of this Yabba Habibi movie I watched the other day, and that's the Fort 9 guys racing around the world. And they said that not stopping is way better than speeding. And to cover distance, if you can cover distance at a constant speed, you generally do a hell of a lot better than just that 5 minutes at the gas station or 5 minutes for a pee break, or because you have to slow all the way down, you come to a complete stop, and you don't always get moving as quick as you thought you would. So the distance you would have covered in that 5 minutes is probably 5-6 kilometers. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Traveling,
easy.
right?
I mean, the trucker's motto, like long haul trucking, never stop. You don't have to go fast. You just can't stop.
Yeah.
Stopping kills, like you said. It's the slowdown, the speed up, getting yourself going again. Once you stop, once again, human nature kicks in. Oh, it's nice to stretch the legs. That pee break now turns into, well, I'm going to pee and I'm going to stretch for 5 minutes and then I'm going to grab a coffee. Oh, hey, look at that. There's hot dogs. Maybe I'll make myself up a hot dog. All innocent in your head. All adds up in time. And like you said, 80 kilometers an hour at 15 minutes covers a lot of distance over time. And you times that by how many ever breaks you'd normally take. When we did long haul truck driving and team drove, we tried to make a point of not stopping at gas stations to use the bathroom. Like stop at the little roadside ones where it's just a bathroom, or just pull over and pee in the woods, whatever. But try not to stop at the truck stops and gas stations and stuff, because they're literally black holes. By the time you pull off, weasel around inside a truck stop. I don't know if you've ever seen like a big truck stop, like maybe Grand Banks, Grand Hill, something like that, where you could have 30, 40 trucks in there, and you got to wiggle around, find your parking spot, not run into anyone else, make sure your reefer's not up against somebody's sleeper if they're sleeping. Like, you instantly lose a half hour. Doesn't matter. You're just stopping to pee, half hour by the time you're done screwing around. Or you can whip off the side of the road, walk into the woods, have a pee, get back in, and be back on the road in like 6 minutes.
Well, and if you're traveling with certain types of people that after you park, they're not ready to get out, so they have to organize their little bag and they have to get their seatbelt off. And you're like, because I park, like I park and I'm out of the vehicle like that, but a lot of people I travel with don't, and that takes time. And these little 2-3 second things they're like, why are you so aggravated by that? Because it's way more time than you think it is.
It adds up. Like, and everything adds up. Big scale. And we're kind of getting off track here. Steve's saying I gotta start running a pee jug. I refuse. I will not pee in a jug. I know the concept. I know people that did it. I just don't know why I couldn't stop and run to the woods. You know what I mean? I just don't want it sitting with me in the truck.
In the hammock. I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah, it's like me. A lot of people say, oh, just pee in a bottle and then you get out in the morning. I can't do it, man. I gotta get out and go pee somewhere else.
Tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to pee all over myself. I'm going to have to get up. I'm going to have to completely clean it up. I'm probably not getting back in that hammock till it's been washed.
Nope. Now you're awake for the rest of the night.
The fastest thing for me to do is get out and pee. It's so much faster. It's so much better than me trying to pee inside of a hammock. Not going to happen.
But that's the thing. Getting back to our current topic, you know your limits. You know what works for you. It's a bigger risk to pee inside the hammock.
Yeah. What's the risk of peeing inside the hammock? I pee over myself. That's a high
I don't want to pee
risk.
over myself. Unacceptable risk. You know what I mean?
That's a high risk. And what's the reward if I'm successful? I get to sleep 2 seconds longer.
If you're lucky by the time you're done jumbling around. And I guess that's what this whole thing comes down to. Risk versus reward to you. So what is the risk? What is the reward? What is the consequence to you? So somebody may be like, if I pee in my hammock, it's just a little bit, whatever. There's probably people like that out there. Or sunburn, they don't really bother me, whatever. I'm not one of those people. I hate being sunburned. Like, I hate the feeling. So I bring sunscreen, but I know lots of people that wouldn't.
So anyone who started listening to this and thinking, oh, Ben and Robert are going to tell us to wear all kinds of protective gear, we're not going to be able to move in the woods. That's not what happened. And the people that thought we would be like, oh, don't wear anything, you can go out there naked. That also didn't happen. What we're telling everyone is to really think about the risks and deal with them proportionally. You know, the high risk things, put the most effort into. The high risk, high frequency things, put the most effort towards preventing those. The low risk, low frequency things, don't worry about it. At worst, carry a first aid kit that can deal with those things. You know, minor cuts and burns and bruises, you'll deal with that, right? And then everything else is in between is the high risk, medium, and then the low risk, but higher frequency, those items, those are medium ones, that's the ones you got to kind of think about a little bit more.
So that's your bumps and scrapes and bruises and stuff. Like, it's not a major risk, but you got to attend to it.
And for me, honestly, strangely enough, this is where animal attacks come in. And I know that the animal attacks are low likelihood. In fact, the one that's most likelihood is insect attacks, because mosquitoes and no-see-ums and sandflies have often attacked me in the woods. Other than that, the only animal that has ever attacked me, and that was in a very public space, was a groundhog.
You know what? Yeah, a goose. Goose got me once, but there's a story behind that, and you know it, Ben.
Yeah, and I think I've told the groundhog story here before.
You did.
The reality is I stepped back and he wandered off. So I'm not going to put a ton of effort into something like that. Make sure that, talk loud when you're in the woods. Have a chat with your buddies. That'll help. Carry a bell, or just allow a couple things to clank when you're walking.
My meal kit, if I know I'm going if I know I'm going through an area that's high in wildlife, I usually carry like a bandana or something in there for keeping it from rattling. I'll just take that out and let it rattle, and that's generally plenty to keep noise away. You know what I mean? I know we're coming up on 30. Well, actually, we're over 36 minutes here, but we started on black bear attacks, so I thought I would finalize one final thought on here. I looked up while we were chatting how many people have been attacked in Nova Scotia. How many have been reported, or more specifically, confirmed records of fatal black bear attacks on humans in Nova Scotia? How many do you think there is in recorded history of the province?
Zero.
Yeah.
I think coyotes is one, and I know of that one.
Yeah, I was going to say coyotes are, but once again, those were more domesticated coyotes, and there might have been coy dogs involved in that.
And we know that it was in an area where they were able to potentially corner the animals, and we think there may be some other things that may have made that person a little bit more attractive due to smells of food and stuff like that. Those are things that, you can mitigate a little bit. Don't have a lot of food smells on you when you're in the woods with things that might attack you. Like, you're much more likely to be attacked by a bear because you had poor camp hygiene. And I think that's a really important word to use here, camp hygiene. Same thing with people I know have lost a lot of food to raccoons and squirrels. They left food on a picnic table overnight, and then they're upset they lost their food. Well, that's going to happen. Make sure your food is locked up and inaccessible. Bear bags are great. Bear cans are also great. The back of a car works pretty good. These are all things I've used. I've even seen people wrap them up and put them inside an outhouse and tie it to the roof or stuff like that. Whatever you can do to kind of make it less attractive to animals really helps. Don't sleep next to an open bologna sandwich and then get all upset when something tries
when a raccoon runs away with it.
Right? I woke up in the middle of the night, there was a mouse running across my face. Well, why were you...
Has nothing to do with the pack of peanuts you got in your sleeping bag, does it? Okay, so a few more stats just because I thought it would be fun.
Yeah.
Since, I think it was 1995 is what I pulled up in this, there have been 3 attacks of coyotes in Nova Scotia where they were bitten. 2019 was the first fatality from coyotes in North America.
Wow. Yeah. And they got a bad rep. People talk about coyotes all the time.
I'd be far more worried about a pack of coyotes than a black bear. I would sooner meet a black bear in the woods than a pack of coyotes. Coyotes are like, they're pack mentality. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're a smaller dog or canine animal, but pack mentality. Black bears, generally pretty lazy. You know what I mean? Unless you're interfering with their lifestyle, they want no part of you. And this is coming from a guy that used to trap and release black bears. Like, that was one of the jobs we did at Natural Resources, really relocating black bears. And everybody was always like, are you going to just open that door and let that black bear run out? And I'm like, well, yeah, what's it going to do? It doesn't want to stay around with me. Like, the second that door's open, that thing is scrambling as hard as it can into the wood line. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. They don't want to deal with people. Animals in general don't want to deal with people. So it is a low frequency but high risk kind of thing, and the frequency is so low. There's no fatalities with black bears in my neck of the woods, and only 1 coyote in North America since 95.
Yeah, I typed in bear attacks in Canada, and AI came up. They said 20 to 30 attacks per year, majority of which are in BC and Alberta. Makes sense.
Grizzlies
But
or
only,
Kodiaks would be my guess.
and that's total attacks, fatal and non-fatal. Then below it, it says typically fatalities are low, between 2 and 5 for all of North America. So even if you include the states with a higher population and more people probably near bears, even then the risks are pretty low of a true fatality. So you might get mauled, and that's not good. But look at your area and see what if there's been a history of attacks, if there's been a history of sightings and stuff like that, and deal with that appropriately. Like I said, since the risk is higher where I'm to, I now do carry some protection, but it's not my primary solution because I know that protection itself has a risk. And I'm usually traveling with a party of up to 5 people or more, and I don't want somebody else to be injured by my solution. So if I spray bear spray, there's a good chance I'm going to end up getting my daughters or my wife or a buddy. And so I have to, if I can prevent it from even being a situation, that's kind of like your engineered solutions. You make your noise, you prevent the poor hygiene from pulling them in, and you try and camp in areas that are less likely to attack you, then you don't have to depend on that other thing, right?
100%.
And that's all risks in the wilderness can be treated the exact same way. Identify them, take the precautions you can so that the likelihood of that is even low. And then if you can't do that, then you go to the PPE, like the anti-cut pants or anti-cut gloves and stuff like that. That helps for sharp things. Sun protection, don't hang out in the hottest part of the day. But if you have to, wear a hat, wear a long sleeve shirt, take some time to cool yourself down. Maybe rinse, dampen your clothing so evaporation helps pull off some of that heat. All things you can do to help prevent things like heat exhaustion and stuff like that.
So, Trevor, or previously Fish, he changed his name there. Curious, you guys ever thought of a Discord channel? I'm going to be honest. I know what it is. I have never done a thing with Discord. Wouldn't know where to start.
I have a Discord account for a few games, but that's about it. No, not something we've...
What would be the benefit to a Discord channel? I like I said, I don't know enough. I know what it is, but I've never used it. I don't know what it does or what the benefit is. If somebody can tell me, I'd be interested.
We can talk about this.
After all of that, one last statistic, because now I'm on a bear rabbit hole, and we all know how that goes. How many more times likely are you to die in an airplane crash than get attacked by a bear in North America?
20
300% more likely to die in a plane crash than get mauled by a bear in North America.
So if you get mauled, buy the lottery ticket at the same time.
I should say mauled to death. I did go which one would kill you. So, but anyway, yeah, like I said, you said bear attacks, and I'm using your numbers here. You said like 35 a year or something, thereabouts?
30 a year in Canada, most of those in BC and Alberta. If you go to fatalities, so they're not even most likely trying to...
Yeah, I'm looking straight up fatalities.
Go away. You're down to 2 to 5 per year.
You're looking at about, this is mostly North America, not just Canada, but around 327 to 400 a year die in plane crashes. Now, that's not just in U.S. Those are like U.S. planes and American planes and whatever. They could crash anywhere, but...
But that's it. Like one large plane could easily take out 400 people.
And that's what I mean, right? Yeah. And that's not just the people on the plane. That's whatever they crash into, too. And I'm not trying to laugh and make it smaller, but I mean, like, it's astronomically small, the chances of you getting attacked by wildlife in the woods. At least here.
You're way more likely to get killed in the vehicle driving to the woods than you are by an animal once you get there.
Oh, goodness. I couldn't even imagine what vehicle deaths account for. I'm not even going to look that up because that's just morbidly depressing at that point.
But when you're thinking about it, that means you're better off spending the money on making sure you still have good brakes and good tires and your steering system is still in good shape than you are worrying about that or improving your driving skills while you're in the woods, because the likelihood of you driving off the road and into the ditch is higher. Also, like, make sure you're well rested before you leave, because more people crash from falling asleep than probably even drunk driving. I don't know if you had that statistic.
No, I don't. Drunk driving deaths is pretty high.
Drunk driving versus falling asleep.
Most of that's going to fall under distracted driving, believe it or not, but it is probably pretty high. So let's see. Kind of a chat group thing for sharing stories, build a worldwide community for bushcrafting and outdoor stuff. I would love to do it. Like I said, I just don't know enough. Maybe I'll look into it. My thing with chat rooms, and here's the thing, and that's kind of what I figured Discord was. Do you remember IRC, Internet Relay Chat, like way back in the day? I know some people still use it, but it was really big like late 90s, early 2000s. That's what I remember about chat rooms. And if somebody doesn't exist in the chat room doesn't exist, is all I remember. So does that mean one of us would have to stay in it at all times? Anyway, I'll look into it. Yeah, we're at 46 minutes here, Ben. We ran a little late here tonight. It's a good topic, though. It's interesting.
I don't have the accident. Strangely, I didn't find the number of accidents by alcohol, but 6,400 people in the U.S. annually die from falling asleep.
Yeah, so we're astronomically higher. You have more risk of falling asleep at the wheel than you do getting attacked by a black bear in Eastern Canada. That's basically what I'm hearing.
Again, risk, the frequency, the risk of that actually happening, really take a look. And it's easy. You can look up the statistics in case you're unsure. If you want to know where to push your energy, your time, and your thoughts, figure out what's most likely to cause you to be injured or discomfort in the woods and deal with those first. And then work your way down to the low risk items. Because honestly, those are the ones you probably don't need to put as much effort in. That doesn't mean forget them completely. But then you can look at what is the easiest thing, the lowest effort thing I can do to prevent those. And it might be, strangely, as little as a bell. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not joking on that one. Like, a couple of small things could really help protect you from that.
And they're only like $5-6.
Perimeter defenses. You put, I think, a small shotgun shell in it. It's got a little firing pin. You hook it up and you run the rope all the way around. It makes a loud bang. It'll drive animals away. That's still, I think they're $20-$30. They're not that expensive. Bit of fishing line, also not that expensive. So these are things you can use. And what's the risk if you accidentally set it off when you get up to go pee at night? You're going to probably scare yourself, right? You're probably not going to blow a hand off or injure yourself or anything like that. So,
yeah. Well, I think for now, that's probably a good spot to end it here tonight. We could probably talk about this for a long time, but in the interest of our algorithms and stuff like that, we should probably wrap it up here tonight.
Yeah, night all, and we'll chatting again.
Yeah, hopefully we got you thinking. That's all this conversation was about. I know I got thinking about some stuff now, so we'll see you next week. Same time, same channel, hopefully, if nothing changes. Once again, thanks to everybody that joined us here tonight. Just to quickly run through them, hopefully I don't miss anybody. We had Eric Fish, or as he has later changed his name to, Trebor85. We have Steve the Drifting Spore. We got Danny, Red Set Adventures. Thanks everybody for joining us here. Always amazing to have you guys there and love your input. All right, folks, everybody have a good night. See you next week.